Hey, fellow Riblets, it's me, Tom from Target Prime Rib. I'm here with my special friend and special guest, targeted guest, Amy Davies from Rockin' Keto Amy. How you doing, Amy?
Great. Thank you so much for I just wanna say thank you for having me on tonight.
Oh, it's definitely a pleasure. It's definitely a pleasure. I mean, you made me a superhero. Of course, it's a pleasure.
Yes, we are the Carnivore Avengers, aren't we?
Yes, yes. I don't know what we're equal to in the actual Avengers,
Right?
So, so we have a few people on here. Sandy is here, Papa Carnivore, and Carnivore Whisperer Lisa is actually here as well. So they're saying hello to everybody. And so, um, how's your day going? First of
It's
all,
going great. I mean, I think everyone who knows me knows I had a stressful weekend because my cat who suffers from anxiety got out, and I spent the last few days worrying about that. Maybe I should put my cat on a carnivore diet, and maybe her anxiety will go away.
it
But,
might, it might.
yeah,
I mean,
something to think about.
I have. I didn't say it before, but I have a funny story. Not funny, but a good ending. So I used to have a cat, black cat. It died. It passed away quite a while ago.
I'm
And
sorry.
but no, it's fine. I mean, it lived about 18, 19 years old, so it had a long life for a cat. But how I got it was I used to rent a room in Trenton, New Jersey. Um, it was a pretty bad homing and everything like that. And I eventually moved out. But the lady that lived with us wanted me to have her cat, and it was an indoor cat. It was raised as an indoor cat as a baby, and I took care of it and everything like that. And she's like, you take care of it more than anybody, so I'd like you to have my cat. Well, a third roommate actually was jealous of me getting the cat. Like he didn't take care of it, but he wanted the cat. It was like a weird thing. And he decided one day to open the door and let the cat out. So the cat escaped, was gone for about 3 weeks, came back all messed up, like face all bloody and everything like that.
Aw.
Like, and but was like it was like I wonder what happened to the other guy. It was that type of thing. Like he was all bad, but he was just like coming. He just came in and he's just like, I'm here now. I had my fight. I'm good. Give me food. That
Right?
was I just thought that was kind of like it was a good ending because he did come back, but it was like everybody was like, "Where's the cat? Like, what happened to him? Oh my god, he was hit by a car." 3 weeks is a long time for a cat to be gone.
It is, and
And he,
mine luckily came back in 2 days, and we had to leave all the doors open in the house, and she just walked right back in. But we had every bug from the outside in our house. I'm still swatting flies, and the one that I got bit by mosquitoes in my house because they came in too, but she came back. So,
oh, okay, okay. Well, got a few people that just joined in again, even more. George Goodenough, just he says he's going to be right back, but and then Juliet Carnivore Edens, which we both know. Also came in. I think you know George good enough too, probably.
yes,
But
yes, I do.
I mean, I think you know everybody on this in this chat and everything. And then just looking. Oh, okay. Amy has a great smile. I have uh, such an RBF. I'm not sure what RBF stands for.
I don't know what that
I
is
must,
either.
I must be too old to really know. Oh, and Carnivore Bob's here. Carnivore Talk. So so you got a pretty big audience already, and you hadn't
Wow,
even started yet.
I
So
know.
speaking of which, I can't wait to hear your story. I don't think anybody else can wait. Um, so
You
I'm
ready?
going to put it out
Ready?
to you. Yep.
Okay. Alright, so I like to start with, like, my childhood just briefly because growing up, I never had a weight issue. I was really thin as a kid. As a matter of fact, my nickname as a child was Olive Oil. If you've ever watched Popeye, that was a real skinny lady. And so they used to call me Olive Oil in grade school. And they also called me Sasquatch too, which was kind of mean because I was tall and skinny. And I was taller than, I was at one point the tallest person in my class, boys and girls. So they called me Sasquatch or Sequoia Tree. They called me Sequoia Tree too. So, I mean, whatever, fine. So in high school, I played sports competitively. And what ended up being my main sport was volleyball because we had a state championship volleyball team where I'm from. And our workouts were pretty tough. And we had what was called the 20-minute run club. So the more you weighed, the more you had to run, which honestly for teenage girls is kind of unhealthy if you think about it. Because I hated running and I was tall. So I weighed more. I weighed between like 135 and 145 in high school. And at that time, I was close to 5'11. I've shrunk a couple inches from all the surgeries, but I hated running. So I would have to run 20 minutes where my petite little 5'2", 100-pound friends only had to run 5 minutes. So I hated that. So I had kind of an unhealthy relationship with food in high school because I just didn't want to run. And so my mom kind of helped me. If you remember back in the 80s, we're about the same age. So do you remember when Slim Fast Shakes came out in the 80s,
Oh God,
the
yeah,
90s?
yeah,
So
yeah.
then in the 90s, they put them in cans. And so I'm like, Mom, I got to lose weight because, volleyball. So she actually, she just did what she thought was right. And she would go buy these Slim Fast Shakes. Well, the ones in the cans were disgusting, the metal cans. So eventually I'm like, I can't drink this anymore. So I started chucking them in the garbage and not eating it all. And so I did that for a while. So I was pretty thin in high school. I lifted weights, I played sports. And then when I got to college, that kind of stopped because I went to the University of Notre Dame, which was kind of a tough college. And my parents couldn't afford it. So I had to work 3 jobs to put myself through college. Well, I think like most of us, when you start getting a job, you're able to buy your own food, right? So you're buying your own fast food, Taco Bell. I also worked at a grocery store. So, I mean, I would get whatever tasted good there, and it wasn't always the healthiest thing. They could be like sandwiches and deli sandwiches and stuff like that. So I remember starting to put weight on in college because I was starting to afford less healthy options. And I was working like 50 hours a week plus taking a full credit load at Notre Dame. So I would say I started to inch up towards maybe 160, 170, 180, even in high school. But I'm still a tall girl. So when you're taller, you carry your weight better. The other thing is I always remember getting sinus infections. Ever since I was a little girl, I struggled with allergies and asthma. And, oh, we have a question. Hold on, I'll read that. Papa wants to know what I'm drinking. This is Topo Chico. And then if that runs out, I also have a big thing of just plain water here because I have to have my liquids at all times. So Topo Chico. So I always struggled with asthma and allergies. I was put on my first allergy medication at age 9 and also my first asthma inhaler. And I was supposed to have sinus surgery as a child, but I remember them saying there was a 50% chance that something bad would happen. And my parents said, no bueno. They're like, we're not going to do this. So I never had the sinus surgery. So fast forward a bit, I was 29 years old and I met my current husband. And we were dating. We were not married yet. I got this terrible sinus infection. And if you've ever had a sinus infection, you just have pain and then pain. I had pain and an ear infection. I had pain in my ear and I would get those all the time. So yeah, so they would usually clear up within, a few weeks to a couple months. Well, this one never went away. And the pain was so excruciating. I couldn't take it. They couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. They looked for tooth pain. They looked for tumors. I went through all these MRIs, CAT scans. They were looking for brain cancer. So at one point I'm like, oh my gosh, I could have brain cancer. And then they were also trying to diagnose me with or rule out MS. And they never found anything. And so then the doctors, the next thing was to say, well, she's imagining this. It's all in her head. So then they started to diagnose me with like, I don't know, that this wasn't real. And I was getting really angry. And I fired a couple doctors over this because I'm like, this is BS. There's something happening and I can't take this. So I finally found a doctor in Detroit. He was a brain surgeon. Because my primary care was my doctor since I was age 17. He was awesome, right? He would basically go to the ends of the earth to help me. So I fired all the specialists he sent me to locally, and he found a brain surgery in Detroit and an ear surgeon who was able to take care of me. And I was kind of mad because I wanted to go to Mayo Clinic, right? Everyone hears Cleveland Clinic and Mayo Clinic are the best, and I wanted to go to Mayo Clinic. So he sent me to this amazing brain surgeon in Detroit. And the first words out of my mouth were, I would rather be at Mayo Clinic. And he said, I could send you to Mayo Clinic if that's what you really want. But I'm the best at what I do, and I'm going to fix you. And I was like, holy crap, I like this guy. He's better than Mayo Clinic. So he says. So I told him my symptoms, and within 5, I'm getting a message. Can everybody see me? Okay. It says low frame rate.
I think YouTube seems to be seeing you, but there's something that just came in front. Okay, is that better?
Okay. I don't know. It says low frame rate, but as long as you guys can hear me, I guess that's what's important.
Yeah. Yeah, something that came up on my screen too.
Yeah. So, what happened was, I'm like, oh my gosh, I like this guy, right? He's confident, and he diagnosed me within just a few minutes of trigeminal neuralgia. And he's like, and back when I had this was in like 2008. There were only 3 surgeons in the area or in the country. One was in California, the one in Detroit, and one I think in Pittsburgh that would perform the surgery. He also called in an ear surgeon because I was having such terrible ear pain. So prior to meeting the surgeon, they had put me on opioids. Okay, just to try to control this pain. And this went on for like a year and a half, 2 years. So I was taking 6 Vicodins a day, Klonopins, diazepam, temazepam, antidepressants, muscle relaxers. I was taking 2,000 milligrams of Lyrica. I think over the recommended FDA approved dose, they had to get special approval from the FDA to just keep increasing my dose of that. And Lyrica, if you've ever heard of gabapentin, this was the gabapentin of the 2000s, which ended up, they found out, killed people. People were dying on it. And of course, I was on this like accelerated dose of it. And what ended up happening on that is, after a while, I couldn't breathe. I noticed I was suffocating. And that was what killed people. People would stop breathing. So I was like, something's wrong. I can't breathe. And they finally tapered me off of that. And not to mention, all these medications still, after a while, weren't touching the pain. It was terrible. They call trigeminal neuralgia the suicide disease. And so there were a couple of times. Oh, yeah. Lynn's asking, did you take all those at the same time? Yes, I took all those at the same time. I still drove around in my car and still went to work every day. And I was still trying to function somewhat as a human. I don't know how. And with this pain. And so one time I'm like, I can't take this anymore. Yeah, clonazepam, Klonopin. I will talk about that in just a minute, Peter. I will get to that. Yes. I will talk about my withdrawal on Klonopins. So 2 times I had to go to the emergency room because I was in so much pain, and I just begged, please give me something just so I can sleep, because I did not sleep for 2 years because the pain was so great I couldn't sleep. So the first time they gave me a shot of morphine, and that was the only thing that would take pain away, was morphine. So the second time this happened, I was with my husband and I was like, I can't take this anymore. I want to die. And I need to go get some morphine because I can't stand this another minute. So I'm like, but I'll drive myself. You stay in bed. So I drove myself to the ER and I went in there and they treated me like I was a street drug addict, like there was nothing wrong with me. And the doctor legit said to me in the emergency room, he's like, well, my neighbor has trigeminal neuralgia and he just takes, whatever, gabapentin and he's fine. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I don't know what's wrong with me then because I am in so much pain. And I was suicidal and I am not a suicidal type person. I'm generally a happy, upbeat person, but this was one time in my life I just couldn't take it. And one day, and I worked where I worked, the office building overlooked a bridge, and I just kept fantasizing going out to that bridge and jumping off of it. I don't know why that was what I focused on, but I was suicidal. And one day, my husband and stepson found me out walking, and I was walking towards the bridge because I was going to jump off of it because I just could not take it anymore. And they literally had to grab me, physically restrain me, and throw me in the back of their vehicle. I was just out of my mind. And when you don't sleep for years, you just become insane. I mean, crazy, insane. And I don't mean that in a derogatory way, but when you don't sleep, you're out of your mind. And so then I found that brain surgeon who could fix me. And here's the funny thing. I was getting married in September of 2007. So he's like, well, maybe we should postpone your surgery until after, your wedding. Get through your wedding and we'll postpone the surgery. And so that's what we did. And before the surgery, I needed to detox off all the medications. And this gets to Peter's question. So the first medication they detoxed me off was Klonopin, which is the one he mentioned. And I had been on it for 2 years, right? So they cold turkeyed me off that medication. I remember trying to work my job, which was a desk job. And and at this point I started working from home because of my medical condition. I got special notes from the doctor to work from home. This was like 20 years ago. And I remember throwing up in the trash can under my desk. I remember cold sweats. And I was so sick. I thought I was going to die just from getting off Klonopins. I'm very lucky that I was able to get off that medication. So I went back to my GP and I said, look, I know you want to take me off one medication at a time, but I'm like, the coming off the Klonopins was just disastrous. So next was to get off the Vicodins. And thank goodness with that, he just stair-stepped me off, right? He just stair-stepped me off that. So that went much better. And then I ended up getting off all of them except for an anxiety medication. They kept me on whatever, I forget which one I was on, but they kept me on one anxiety medication for a long time. So that was awful. And I didn't think of myself as an addict because when they told me to get off of this stuff, I did it. But your body becomes used to it. And so there's withdrawal no matter who you are. But honestly, I look back, 2007, 2008 was when all the OxyContin stuff was going on and people were becoming addicted and they were overprescribing medications, which I really did need this stuff. I mean, I was in so much pain. I needed it. But I'm like, if I wasn't able to get off of this medication, today I could be a drug addict. Oh, and that is Jem. She has a great question. I'll go ahead and address this. She says, did you feel like you had no quality of life? Yes, I felt hopeless. I wanted to die. And because of the pain in my ear, sounds hurt so bad. Like I couldn't. This is the point in time in my life when I started to read books because I couldn't watch a TV. The sound from a TV hurt me. I would isolate myself in a bedroom. I ended up moving in with my husband before we got married because I was suicidal and he wanted to take care of me. And I'm like, let's just break up. Like, I don't want to be with anybody. I'm useless. I'm useless as a human. I don't want to be with anybody. Just move on and meet somebody who's not broken because Nothing was helping. And I also was a singer. I've been a singer. A lot of you who know me know that I'm in choir groups. So I would have to go to choir. I would try to go, but I'd have to wear earplugs because my ear hurt so bad. So, yeah, my quality of life was horrible. I'm an extroverted person, and during this time in my life, I was forced into becoming an introvert, and it was horrible. Um, so that's a great question. So, another thing that was going on was, well, and the surgery that I had in April. So I had my surgery in Providence Hospital in Detroit, and it's micro decompression surgery. They went in and they didn't really find, usually what happens is when they suspect trigeminal neuralgia, there's a blood vessel pressing on your facial nerve. They did not find that. So how they fixed me was they nicked my trigeminal nerve a third of the way through. They can't do it all the way through because it will paralyze your face. So they did it a third of the way through. Um, and then they also did something inside of my ear, like put foam or material around the nerve inside of the ear that was triggering as well. They couldn't nick that nerve because of the hearing. It's tied in with the hearing. So Jem also asked, did you have agoraphobia too? Yeah, I mean, I basically didn't want to go anywhere. I couldn't stand anything that was noisy. A couple of times my stepdaughter wanted to take me to a musical. She wanted to take me to High School Musical, and I couldn't even go to that. I couldn't go see Cats because I love musicals. And there was just a lot of things I couldn't do. So yeah, I would, my husband would go watch TV and I'd have to go into another room. I basically was by myself. Um, so I had that surgery and that essentially fixed this. Um, Also, this another thing that was going on at this time was I wanted to lose a few pounds before my wedding. I had probably was about maybe 190. And so I wanted to lose a few pounds before my wedding. And so I heard about this buzz diet called Atkins, right? which essentially is what? Keto, carnivore. It's everything we're doing now, only
Pretty much, it's
I
kind of
never
like the grandfather of it all. Yeah.
yes. So this is important a story because this will get to how I became keto carnivore. But I never bought the book because the book took you through these phases. Like week 1 was actually just carnivore. Week 2, 3, whatever was adding some veg back in. So then you go keto. I mean, I was too cheap to buy the book. So I just Googled it on the Google machine and it's like, oh, cut starches, carbs. So essentially I just did keto. We just didn't know it was keto back then. I just eliminated potatoes, rice, corn, sugars. I just eliminated all the things, right? And I lost 30 pounds like that. No problem. So like my body responded to it very well. I was like 29, 30 at that age. So then we got married and we went on our honeymoon, which was a 2-week Caribbean cruise, right? And I thought, well, I'm just gonna you take a little bit of a break from the Atkins thing, and I'm just gonna enjoy all the things on the cruise because I wanted to enjoy the cruise. Well, let me tell you, did I enjoy all the things? I mean, they had buffets, they had sit down dinners, and they had stuff you can't normally eat. And then we would go out singing and dancing and singing karaoke, and then the buffet was still open at midnight. So guess what you could do? You could go to the buffet after you drank alcohol and get a plate full of brownies and then take it up into your room and eat brownies in bed. I'm like, what is like that is so amazing. Like, so guess what? The clothes that I took on my honeymoon started to not fit me after 2 weeks. Like I I legit had clothes in 2 weeks that I gained that weight back in 2 weeks, plus some probably because my clothes
I believe it. Yeah.
it was awful. And then I got back and, I was just starting my marriage and I was learning how to cook. And do you think I ever got back on Atkins? Nope. Never went back to it. But I was happy. Like, I just gone through this traumatic thing that was fixed, my trigeminal neuralgia. And, I was living life. I was married. Everything was going great. Um, so I also think that coming off all those meds had something to do with maybe weight gain too, because you're replacing probably all the medication with food. And before you know it, I was like 250 to 260 pounds. I stopped weighing myself at some point. Uh, so I think I got up to about 260 pounds at my highest. But you know what? I didn't care. I was happy. My husband seemed to be happy. He didn't care I was heavy. Till one day I woke up out of bed. This was 2012. I just woke up out of bed with severe hip pain. I didn't injure myself. There was no fall. Nothing triggered this. And I was about 35 years old. So I lived with this for a while, but I was really slowed down, right? So I finally went to a hip specialist, a local hip surgeon, who diagnosed me with a labral tear in my left hip. And he eventually did surgery, which was successful. We did the surgery, he repaired the tear and made me feel better. And you think that I would have taken this as some sort of warning sign to try to lose some weight. And I thought about it. And every once in a while I try like calorie restriction. My big thing was I did these stupid protein shakes, and I don't know what brand it was. It was something I got from Sam's Club. So I'm like, oh, I'm going to try protein shakes, right? So I would try those, and which is so stupid because what does this remind you of? This reminds you of the stupid Slim Fast shakes I did in high school that I dreaded. I don't even know how I got to these shakes, but I did. So what would happen is I would have one for breakfast and I would have one for lunch. And then at dinner, I would blow it because I would be so starving. My one meal, I would just eat everything in the fridge. So I never lost weight on those. So in 2016, I was starting to walk because I thought if I walked and did exercise, I could eat whatever I wanted, right? So I started to exercise, and we went on a trip to New York City because I was singing at Carnegie Hall with one of my choral groups. And I'm the type of person that I plan every minute of a trip. And I didn't realize how well, and you're familiar with New York City, right? You've been there, Thomas?
Of course.
The New York City streets, the blocks
Hmm.
are huge compared to South Bend, Indiana. They're more like Chicago blocks. So I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
it's only 5 blocks. Well, I ended up walking, I think, 25,000 steps, which I think I calculated was 10 to 12 miles I walked. And this is when I was heavy. And I remember stepping off a curb in New York City and my foot was messed up. Like, I ended up having to have surgery on that foot. And of course, if you go see a surgeon, what are they going to recommend? Where do they make their money? They do surgery.
Yeah.
So, what I really should have done was gone and gotten like orthopedic things, inserts put in my shoes, and I should have probably found the carnivore diet, but I mean, it was 2016. I didn't know about the carnivore diet, but so I ended up having surgery on my foot, and let me tell you, big mistake. I wish I never would have had foot surgery because my foot still swells. It's doing a lot
Hmm.
better since I've tightened up my diet, but if I accidentally eat something wrong, my foot that I had surgery on is the first thing that swells up. And I ended up still having pain after the surgery. So I ended up going and getting inserts and orthopedic shoes, which I wish I would have done that first. So fast forward to 2018. Still have not lost the weight, right? Well, let me back up a little bit. So another thing I was doing was I got a gym membership, and I'm like, if I work out as hard as I want to, I can eat whatever I want, right? So I would go to the gym and get on the elliptical, and I would do like 2.5 hours on an elliptical, and I would burn like 2,000 calories. And I would do this late at night because I work. And then I would go home and I would make a plate of nachos that was about 3,000 calories. So I would just go home. I'm like, I can eat whatever I want because I just worked out for 2.5 hours. So I would go home and all the calories I burn, I would go eat like that plus some because I was starving. I was starving. So that wasn't working. You cannot outrun a bad diet. That is so true. You do exercise because it's good for you, but you got to fix your diet. So, and okay, fast forward. Thank you, Jem. I appreciate it. So fast forward to 2018. And I have a video on my channel that shows us. Some of you may have seen it, but I was walking out in my yard to change a hummingbird feeder.
Yeah,
And
I
I
saw that.
didn't see this nasty spider web, right? And it was like dusk, so I didn't see it. So I walked, and this is true. This is all true. I walked face first into it and spun around and landed in my yard. Well, I retore my left hip labrum. And it's okay to laugh. You know, my sister watches this video almost every day just because she thinks it's hilarious, even though I got hurt.
Oh, I'm sure
So,
you put the video out so people can start laughing. I'm sure you
yeah,
didn't like.
I'm totally fine if you guys laugh with me. I give you permission. So, I was still probably 100 pounds overweight. And so I waited a few months just to see if it would heal, and it never went away. So I went back to the same surgeon locally here that did my surgery, and he confirmed it was another labral tear. So we went ahead and scheduled my second surgery. And I remember going home, and by this time, when you go to a doctor, they upload the notes that they write, your care summary, into a digital platform. Most doctors and surgeons now upload this. So I logged in, and I'm a technical person, so I'm like, I want to see all my stuff. I logged in, and one of his notes was, we talked extensively about weight loss. And I read this note, and I was like, I started bawling. I'm like, he never said anything about my weight, and I started crying. I don't know why, but that hit me emotionally. I realize now that doctors have to go through certain steps for insurance to pay for things. So I'm sure they looked at my weight, right? And he probably had to document that even in my chart, even though we never once talked about my weight. So, but that really lit a fire under my, that lit a fire. And I'm like, you know what? And he wasn't the first doctor who mentioned something. My doctor, my GP would always say, push yourself away from the table. Of course, that never worked. That does not work. We all know this, that calorie restricting does not work. So this was in October of 2018. I asked him, I'm like, give me 6 months. I know what to do. I know what to do. I know what works. What works was the Atkins thing that I did before my wedding, right? So I'm like, I'm just going to do this low carb thing again. This, no potatoes, no starches, no sugars. I know it works. And so I started it. But for whatever reason, I was doing it wrong. Like, I was eating a lot of grilled chicken and steamed broccoli.
Low fat, right?
I was doing a low fat, low carb diet. It was disgusting. And that lasted for a couple months, and I was losing weight. I lost about 10 pounds a month. And then my sister, secretly, I just found out recently, my sister's been keto for 20 years. And so, she's the OG keto person in my family. And I wish she was more outgoing because, she could do what I'm doing. But she's very shy. And so she got wind that I was trying to do the Atkins thing again. And she goes, you don't have to just eat grilled chicken and steamed broccoli. And I'm like, what? And she started sending me videos from Dr. Berry. She started sending me recipes from Maria Emmerich, from who are some of the other people she sent me? Carolyn Ketchum. All of these creators with recipes, right?
And this is around 2018, correct?
This was 2018, yes. And so I was like, "Oh, I can do this. I can do this with more fat in my diet and not feel like I'm gonna wither away," right? So, um, I lost consistently 10 pounds a month for 6 months. So, I was down about 60 pounds and I went back to the surgeon. I'm like, "Okay, I'm ready to do this." And the reason why I needed to lose weight too was because with labral tears,
Yeah.
you can't, it's no weight bearing. You have to be on crutches, okay? And when you're that heavy and you're on crutches, your armpits, you're gonna end up needing armpit surgery too because it's just too much weight. And I also live in a house with stairs. It's a tri-level, so we have 3 levels, stairs everywhere, no main floor bathroom. So I'm like, I can't do this being 260 pounds on crutches. I just can't. So
Yeah.
I went back and I think I got down to like 190, which was a good weight, and or maybe 200. And um I had the surgery. So everything was going great, right? I got off crutches after about 7 weeks and I just started rehab because there's a lot of rehab for labral tears. So what happened was I was standing at my counter chopping a salad because I still at this time like to eat salads. And I just took a step, just like a baby step, and I felt my left hip pop and I almost went down to the ground. I lost my balance and I had excruciating pain. Well, apparently the surgery failed and I had another labral tear. So I went back to my surgeon and he was like, "I'm sorry, there is nothing I can do for you. We're done here." And I'm like, "This is worse than what it was before the second surgery." He's like, "But I know of someone who might be able to help you. Let me send you to a specialist in Chicago." And he did. And this guy was just like my brain surgeon. I met him and he is the OG doctor for hip surgeries. Like I'm telling you, he travels all over the country, gives seminars. His name is Dr. Shane No, and he works for Rush Medical in Chicago. And it was like I went in, he looked at my MRI and he looked at me and he's like, "I can fix you." And I'm like, "What?" My doctor back home said there was nothing more that could be done. And he's like, "I can fix you." He's like, "But here's the deal. We're going to have a problem with the insurance company." And he's like, "They never approve everything, right? They only approve certain surgical codes." And he's like, "If I go in and I see something other than what they approved, I'm going to fix it. And then we'll fight them later. We will fight them," which that ended up happening. The insurance came after me for like $80,000, but we fought them and I got it approved. It was a lot of work, but um, he thought that he was going to have to use cadaver tissue in my hip because he said when he opened me up, my labrum in my hip was like ripped jeans and there wasn't enough material to sew me back. But he ended up being able to do it without using cadaver tissue. So I do not have some other person inside of me, which is kind of nice, but I would have been fine if they had to use that. No big deal. They do that all the time. Uh, the other thing was like, and you'll understand this, Thomas, the time between my second and third surgery, I was crippled. I could
Mm-hmm.
barely walk. I had a handicap sticker. I was in excruciating pain again. Um, I had to
Oh,
park right next to when I went to the grocery store, it was really difficult for me. I started ordering my groceries and doing pickups. And it was like I thought my mobile life was over. I really thought that I was not going to be able to walk very well again. And let's see. So another funny thing is I had 2 surgeries in 2019. And anesthesia does weird things to people, right? So in 2019, when I was on keto, I had a meat aversion. Like, I was having a hard time eating meat, especially beef, which is very depressing. So, really, the only thing I could eat in 2019 was eggs and bacon. So, I ate eggs and bacon almost every day as my primary meal. I would try to eat beef, but usually it was just a couple bites. And then, so I lost the majority of my weight that year and I lost 20 more pounds. So I think I lost a total of 80 pounds in my first leg of my weight loss journey. And then I stalled for 2 years. Eventually, the meat aversion went away, which that's why I think it was related to the anesthesia. Because I also had a cilantro aversion too, and I love cilantro. So there was just some weird things going on that year. And then I went through physical therapy through a whole year for a whole year. And some of it I had to pay for on my own because, if you know, I think insurance only pays for 20 physical therapy sessions a year. So I ended up paying for a lot of it myself. But the interesting thing is, the cleaner the ingredients I started eating, the less pain I found I had. And when I eliminated gluten from my diet, my childhood asthma went away. Like this thing that I've had since I was 9 years old. The other thing was I had high blood pressure too. And so when I was about 38, my blood pressure was 220 over 110 when I got diagnosed. So I was taking blood pressure medication, and I finally got off of that. I still have an asthma inhaler that I rarely have to use. It's there in case I'm around a cat that I'm not used to, or if I accidentally ingest some food, or if there's smoke from the Canadian fires outside or something. Every once in a while, I have to use it from some irritant.
Right.
And I finally got off those anxiety meds that I was on since my trigeminal neuralgia surgery. They never took me off of those, which brings up another point. Doctors will prescribe you, but they're not good at deprescribing. So
I think we
the
can
other
all
thing
attest
I
to
was
that.
the other thing I was diagnosed with in 2011 was sleep apnea. And I don't know if you have that or not, but
I did.
at at that time, when you went to go get your sleep study done, you had to go stay at the place for 2 days, right?
Mhm.
So I went for the first night. I couldn't fall asleep, and I finally fell asleep at like midnight. And next thing I know, at 1 a.m., they're waking me up. So the first night they were just supposed to monitor me and see how I slept. The second
Mhm.
night they were going to put a CPAP machine on me and see how I did it.
Mhm.
Nope. My AHI, which is apneas per hour, I think, was 70. So I stopped breathing more than once per minute. Or yeah, once per minute. And they woke me up after an hour and said, "Ma'am, we can't let you sleep. It's too dangerous." I'm like, "What do you mean it's too dangerous? I sleep like this all the time. How can it be dangerous?" So I never got to the second night of the study. They woke me up after an hour, put a sleep apnea machine on me, and then sent me home in the morning with a CPAP. So it was crazy. Now, I think I probably need to have another sleep apnea test done, but I think it's better. I don't know if I'm totally cured. Maybe carnivore will do that. I don't know. I don't know that.
Mhm.
So, are there any more questions?
So far, I haven't seen any,
Okay, I'll just
which
keep
is
going
good.
because
Yeah, it
we're
allows
getting
you to keep on going.
yeah, we're getting to almost current time. So sorry
I
to
mean,
drag everybody through all this.
don't worry about, don't worry. You know, you're fine. I said it this way so you can freely tell your story, and and we can still stop and everything like that. You know,
Yep.
why do it this way?
So in 20, I want to say 2019, 2020, somewhere in there, I stalled. I lost the 80 pounds, and then I couldn't lose any more. And I'm like, you know what? I'm fine where I'm at. And then come 2021, I was still stalled. And I'm like, okay, I want to try something else. And at this time, Maria and Craig Emmer came out with this protein sparing modified fasting, right? And I'm like, I'm going to try this. And I did. And I lost, I want to say like 30 more pounds. And with protein sparing modified fasting, you're basically eating a pure lean protein meal. And what I would do is and you only do it 1 to 3 times a week. You don't do it every day. So I did that 1 to 3 times a week, and I got down to 153 pounds, which is, at one point I got down to 148, which is only like 5 pounds over my high school weight. But then I hovered around 153. So that put me at 110-pound weight loss. And I held that for 2 years. I would eat keto on my off days, and then I would eat protein sparing modifying fasting 1 to 3 days a week. And then and I was happy because, like, some days I could eat things that I liked, and then the other days I would just do that fasting, and I just stayed consistently at 153 pounds for 2 years. And so up until this point, I had been doing some sort of keto journey for 7 years successfully. Um, so again, the things that I cured in just that point was asthma, got rid of my eczema, the high blood pressure, off the depression meds. The joint pain is gone as long as I eat clean, and then the sleep apnea is much better. So things were going great until 2020. And I know you've watched my story on Dave Max, so probably know what I'm going to say here, and I'm going to try to put this in a way that's not going to get your YouTube channel in trouble. But we all know
Thank
what
you.
happened in 2020, right?
Yeah.
Everybody experienced it. And I took a certain shot, and it messed me up bad. Like, I was one of the people that had a bad reaction, and it wasn't the first one, it was the second one. And I'm pretty sure that I could have died. I couldn't breathe. My lungs filled up with fluid, and there was no doctor that would see you. I contacted the CDC. The CDC told me to contact my local county, city government, and I did that. And they told me to contact the CDC, and they just kept going back and forth. So I filled out a VAERS. Yep, I filled out a VAERS report. I still am waiting to hear back about that. And so my doctor would not see me, my GP, because I had the virus symptoms, and I'm like, this is not the virus. So finally, after like seven negative tests, he's like, yeah, you don't have it. So this went on for about 45 days. I couldn't breathe, and I refused to go to the ER because I was scared they were going to put me on a ventilator, even though I didn't have the virus. That's what they were doing back then, and I didn't. I told my husband, life is tough. Yes, I see that. I told my husband to only take me to the emergency room if my lips turned blue. That was the only way I would go to the emergency room. So I dealt with this, and finally I went. My doctor finally saw me after I just kept harassing him, and he put me on steroids. I had to keep going on these steroids, and after a few rounds of steroids, I was better. So this tells me I had some sort of allergic reaction to the shot that I took. And I don't want to. I took that because my parents were 80, and my mother-in-law was in the nursing home. She was 94, and we were told that it was a requirement to be able to visit her. Well, guess what? Once we put her in the nursing home, they shut the doors and locked us, and we didn't get to see her anyway. So that was a bunch of BS. Anyway, that's all I'm going to say about that, except for after that reaction, I was getting sick every month and a half with a cold, with the virus. I got RSV. I was sick for 2 years, and I'm pretty sure I had long COVID, essentially, because I was exhausted, and I had this undiagnosed exhaustion, and then they put me on all these B vitamins. I had a surgeon, which we'll get to that in a second. And my doctor, they put me on a B complex and also B12. So I was doubling up on all these B vitamins because I ended up having a partial hysterectomy in 2021 to treat fibroids that caused me to bleed for months on end. And unfortunately, my strict diet didn't cure that. So the surgeon and the doctors were putting me on B vitamins just to boost my energy level, and I don't really know if it helped or not. And then this year, I probably started feeling a little better at some point. This year I want to say May, there were some traumatic events that happened all in the same week. So my brother had an injury at work where he slit his arm open on a piece of metal and almost bled to death on the way to the hospital. And of course, I'm everybody's caretaker, right? I'm the one that everybody calls when stuff happens. So he texted me that he was in the ER and not to worry, nothing was wrong. Well, I'm like, he works 2 towns over. If they ambulanced him to the major hospital, I knew something was wrong. So I left work and went straight there. And then I was sitting in the room the whole time as he was bleeding and they were stitching him up. So I saw that. 2 days later, my mom calls me and she's like, "I'm sorry, but your dad needs to go to the hospital." And I'm like, "You're kidding me, right?" So my dad had a kidney stone, and I actually figured it was probably a kidney stone before they diagnosed it as a kidney stone, but still, that was still stressful that we had to sit in the emergency room for 7 hours while he was in pain because that's how long it took to get into the emergency room. I don't know. Do you want to read this?
Well, I put out because I saw QQQ. But yeah, Papa Carnivore is just basically talking about Rick. Rick was doing carnivore, but didn't know he was a carnivore until someone told him. Isn't that incredible? Yes.
Right?
So sometimes ignorance can be bliss, you
Yeah.
know.
So then that same week, the storms up here this year have been terrible, right? So I live next door to my parents and I take care of them and they're 80 and we had a storm and 2 trees fell in their yard and missed both of our houses. And these are like 80-foot, 60-year-old fir trees. So they're very tall. So that same week that my brother almost died and my dad was in the hospital, we had a terrible storm and our tree fell, nearly missing our house. And so we were dealing with that. And so that week, I don't know, something happened with my energy level after that week. I don't know if it was stress, cortisol, probably all of it. After all of that happened, I remember for weeks in a row, uh, waking up in the morning and feeling paralyzed. I can't explain it, but like just laying there, like I can't move. I can't get out of bed. How am I going to work? I can't move. And I'm like, okay, something's not right. Like, and that's when I really thought I'm going to try carnivore. Like, because obviously, I need to mix it up. And I also put on like 15 pounds just like that. When I had been consistent at 153, I was like 165 or, closer to 170. And I'm like, okay, this is no longer working for me. And I'm obviously not going to try veganism and I'm not going to go to low carb. I mean, what else is there to try? Carnivore was the next progression. And I didn't think that I could do it. Like, first of all, I didn't think I could give up cheese. I'm I'm a cheeseaholic. The other thing that I wasn't I was a social drinker even on keto. So every once in a while I would have like a low carb seltzer like a White Claw or something like that. And I'm like, I could give that up easier cuz it's not every day, but the cheese thing, like really the cheese was the big one, I think. And honestly, I just put butter on everything and butter is my new cheese. And I don't even miss it. Now, I do not I still drink coffee. But I used to drink 2 pots of coffee a day because more tired and more tired I got, the more I would just dump coffee into my system to try to feel better, and I didn't. I didn't feel better. But within 2 weeks of being on carnivore, it's like I still felt tired, but I felt more energy creeping in. So, like, I'm like, "Oh my goodness, this is working. It's working." So I just kept feeling better and better. I'm what, like 55 days carnivore now. Now, the only bad thing that really happened since I started carnivore was I caught a cold like 3 or 4 weeks in. I caught a cold, but honestly, even that I felt like wasn't as severe. Like normally when I get sick, I'm out for like 2 months. There were 2 days that were really bad, and then it was totally cleared up within a week. Um Another thing that improved on carnivore was I have had migraines, right? Since I was 13. And I was the insurance, darn the insurance, they oh wait, hold on. Jem's asking, Amy, I was a cheese nut. Which cheese do you miss? All the cheeses. Like
Okay.
shredded cheese on my eggs, Colby cheese. I like this Cabot white cheddar cheese that I would literally just slice it and it would go straight into my mouth after cutting it. It wouldn't
Yeah,
even land on a plate.
the only cheese I didn't like was Limburger cheese. I thought it had a really bad smell. But other than
Yeah,
that, any
it's a
cheese.
smelly cheese, but I like it. I also like the Kerrygold cheese, which is kind of stinky too, but
Mm.
I like it. I mean, any cheese, you name it, I like it. Now, will I eventually maybe try to have cheese now and again? Maybe. But right now, I just haven't even craved it, which is amazing. No. This is Juliet. We're in class
Yep.
together.
Yep. I know
And
Juliet.
so no. As a matter of fact, my allergies, even being on keto, have been so much better. I don't even get them now. There was a couple times where the same ear started hurting and it felt like that ear pain was coming back, but it didn't last. And I'll get to that in a second because I really think I could have avoided all of these surgeries. I really do. But I want to go back to the migraine thing. Um, so I was on this Trokendi XR, which was my maintenance migraine medication, which worked great, right? Then in 2024, my insurance came and said we're not going to pay for it anymore. And so it was going to cost like 2,500 a month if I wanted to stay on this medication, which I can't afford that. So they put me on this crappy version of it called topiramate. And I didn't realize it, but my hair was falling out. Like my hair was just falling out in clumps. As a matter of fact, my sister had gone through chemotherapy for breast cancer and my hair was falling out worse than hers was. Um so I thought my hair was falling out because of menopause because I'm 49, I'll be 50 and I had a hysterectomy. I didn't know what was causing it. But then I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Ask Nurse Cindy, but I was just googling people like hair loss and stuff. I watched a video about her hair loss and she said check your meds. And this light bulb went off. I'm like, my hair started falling out the same time I started taking this topiramate. So I called my doctor. I'm like, I got to get off of this. She's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I got to get off this medication. I believe it's making my hair fall out. So we went off of it and my hair started growing back really thick. Well, what's funny is now I'm on carnivore, right? My hair was growing back before I started carnivore in July. Now that I started carnivore, this is kind of gross, but I noticed my leg hair is growing and like really thick and dark. I'm
I
like,
remember you saying that.
this is bullshit, man. I don't want to be like sorry for cussing, but I'm like, I don't want that. But I mean, I guess if they're growing on my legs, they're growing up here too, right? So I'm getting my curly hairs growing in thicker, which I
You'd
really like.
hope.
But so like I mean I guess that could be a negative of carnivores. You're gonna get really thick leg hair or hair in places you don't want. But uh so there's that. The other thing with I'm dealing with right now that isn't resolved is I have a fluid filled mass in my lower right abdomen. If I could guess what it is, I don't think it's cancer or anything like that. I believe it's a cyst, and I've done a little bit of research. Sometimes when you have surgeries in your abdomen, they can cause trauma and then cysts can form. So I think my hysterectomy in 2021 maybe caused this cyst. And Dr. Kiltz actually said it could be a peritoneal inclusion cyst. Of course, he can't really say for sure because I'm still waiting on a CT scan and the insurance is jerking me around on that. So it was supposed to be today and it didn't get approved. So now I got it scheduled for next week. So we'll figure out what that is. I was going to say something. I forget what it was. I said I would get back to it. No, I don't remember.
Oh, I'm sorry about
Uh,
that.
no, I wanted to finish one thought before I went on to the other, but it's okay. So I thought I was only going to go. Oh, I remember what it was. I thought I was only going to try carnivore for 30 days, but I kept feeling better and better. And I guess this is how it happens with everybody. So now I'm past I'm almost at 60 days, and I really think I will be doing this at least for 90 days and probably beyond. And I don't miss the alcohol or anything or the cheese. I just drink Topo Chico. If we go out, I drink soda water with a lime. So the reason why I started the story way back with the trigeminal neuralgia and everything, I truly believe if I had been known about carnivore back then, I would not have that ear pain or the facial pain or the sinus infections. I really believe that I wouldn't have had the hip pain. I think this was all inflammation in my body, right? And when you go to surgeons, they're going to recommend surgery. And
Of course.
I'm not knocking any of these people because they're doing what they're trained to do, and you have a condition.
Yeah.
And but here's the thing, the minute I accidentally, and I say accidentally because there's gluten in things you don't know there's gluten in, but the minute I accidentally have gluten, my guess what the first thing is to hurt? My foot and my hip. So
Mhm,
I
mhm.
honestly believe that I could have cured this stuff without surgery. And I don't know what your thoughts are on that, Thomas. I know you
I
probably think
Yeah,
you could have avoided surgery too.
I probably could have. I probably could have what if I was eating the right diet. I believe deeply, very very deeply that I would say if there was a chance of it not working, would have been like maybe 5%, and that would have been it. That I probably would have saved my toes if I actually was eating the carnivore diet all along. Yes,
Um,
absolutely.
but and I do regret that a little bit. I regret, but I guess had I not, I mean, the at least the hip surgery is why I'm on this diet. So in that sense, it was a good thing, because had that doctor never wrote essentially in my notes that I was fat, and had I not had to have hip surgery, I would not be eating this lifestyle. So I'm going on 8 years keto carnivore, almost 60 days carnivore, you know, over 7.5 years keto. So I think, I mean, I'm winning at this point. I really think I'm winning, and
Yeah.
that's pretty much it.
I'm sure the
You know,
story's going to keep on going on and on. I mean, our stories are never over.
I say
Um,
that all the time. We're still writing our stories. Our stories are still being written.
yeah. So, I mean, but no, I totally agree with, everything that you said. I mean, I would like to think, and I think I take solace in this, that even though we went through hell, and I'm not sorry for saying a curse word because that's really what we went through. All right,
Mhm.
there's no way of sugarcoating that. Even though we went through hell and everything like that, and when I say we, you, me, everybody, the only one that may not have really went through it that much was Rick, and that's just because he was smart enough to not do the stupid things that we all did. And even though it was in our stupidity, a lot of it was that we're taught the way that we were and stuff like that. But the thing is, if we didn't have our past, we wouldn't be here today to tell our stories.
Mhm.
And our stories is what is going to help other people. And I don't know about you, but if I can help just one person figure this out, you know, I mean, one of the disappointments I do get is like when there's certain people I know could use the help, and I try to help them, and they just don't want to listen. And it's even if you just kind of like say, okay, I'm not gonna, like you're on your own path. Just follow what if you're just following what I'm doing, you would realize, if you were just listening to the same stories I hear. But the thing is you can't get into somebody's head by drilling it. You have to kind of
Mhm.
just being an inspiration, tell your stories, and like I'm trying to do, and like you're trying to do, just help other people tell their stories. Be a soapbox for them to stand on, and And if I didn't have my past, if I didn't have those 3 years of hell that I went through, and yes, I was diabetic for over 20 years, but my real misery went to like the 3 years, like almost 5 years of like not being able to walk, being in a wheelchair. I was actually paralyzed for like almost 3 months. Like literally in bed, couldn't move, had to be pulled up in order to sit up to eat. That's how bad I was. And if I didn't go through that, I would never be here. I wouldn't be here with you. I wouldn't be here with
Right.
retired Rick or Aaron. You know,
And I believe you're gonna reverse your diabetes. I really do. Like, you're gonna go into remission. I really truly believe that because 'cause you're working so hard at it. It
yeah.
takes
So do I.
time to heal.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes I sometimes think of our journey as I'm trying to think of a good analogy. You ever see those like pendulum balls that
Yeah.
you pull one and you hit it, and then the other on the other side one goes, and if you pull two, two goes, and vice
Mhm.
versa.
Yeah.
But when you see it going, eventually it starts slowing down. But sometimes it'll just keep on bouncing back. So sometimes I think what you have to do. Yeah, that might not be a good analogy. I'm sorry about that. Sometimes, like, okay, when you snap a rubber band, do you ever notice, like, when you snap a rubber band, like, when you pull it back and you let go, it kind of like bounces backwards
Yeah.
again?
Mhm.
Well, sometimes I think that's what happens to us. Sometimes, even on our journey, when we're trying to move to a certain point ahead, sometimes we go back a couple steps. So, and I notice that, like, whenever I have an issue or a problem, yeah, I had the issue or problem, but then 3 weeks later, I'm that much further ahead of
Mhm.
my journey. So I think that these things are meant to be. And but this is not my story. This is yours. But you know, and everything. So I mean, yeah. I mean, everything you were describing, I kind of, I not even kind of, I related to so many things that you were talking about.
Thank you.
Especially the feet. You know, that's I mean, I'll tell you the truth. I did try crutches, but unlike you, I wasn't smart enough to lose weight in order to use them. Because when you're over 250 pounds, and at that time I was about 260, so even 10 pounds is too much. It's very hard, and I didn't really have any upper body strength, so I had to use the wheelchair. I couldn't use the
Mhm.
crutches at all. And there was a time when I was like non-weight bearing on both feet, you know. So I had to do what I had to do, and I mean, I don't know. Did you wear any special boots or anything like that? Like, I had a couple
Mm.
special boots that I had to wear that were like annoying, to
For
say the
the
least.
foot surgery, I had a boot I had to wear. And
Okay.
honestly, when they told me to take it off, then I started working on my foot and it was very painful. And I'm
Of
like,
course.
screw this, I'm putting the boot back on. So he said if it hurt, you can wear the boot again. But I'm like, I tried to put my foot in regular tennis shoes and my, my feet were swelling so bad that I didn't care what I looked like. I put the boot back on. I'm like, I want to be comfortable.
Well, I remember I had two boots. I had one. It was not really a boot. It was a little bit more than a boot. They called it a boot, but I wouldn't say it's a boot. But one was, it looked like concrete. Like they literally had to take like these, like, like paper mache and everything. It would harden
Mhm.
up and everything. They had to use a special saw. And at first I was like, but then I realized that all it's doing is shaking, and it's not going to really cut me. But still, I'm like, has anybody ever been cut with this? And they're like, well, like, they hesitate to tell me, like, okay, thank you for the hesitation, you know. But that was one boot, and I used to actually, with my drawings, and they used to think it was like such bad humor. I used to draw dead fish on it because I'm like, this reminds me of a mafia boot. So I would just draw like dead fish, like that they're really dying, cartoons, dead fish, and I'd be like, "Well, I'm swimming with the fishies, aren't I? You're planning on throwing me in the canal." So they would like laugh at it, but they would like be like, that's bad humor. And then they gave me a boot that I could remove, but it literally looked like I was like putting on part of my costume for a stormtrooper costume or an astronaut. It was just this great big, like, great big, huge boot. And the sad thing is, one day I actually had to get when my old roommate did all of her crap and everything like that. I had to get new keys for the new locks, so I was getting copies made for my new roommate. And so I took an Uber to the Home Depot, and the Uber didn't show up and everything. So I had this whole big thing. So I ended up having to walk to get to the bank so I could just my phone died, all this stuff. It was just like if Hellfire could like fall on me right then, it was going to fall on me right then. And I did all that stuff, but as I'm going on the curb with this boot, I I wiped out.
Oh
So I ended up in
no.
the hospital, and everything. And it was like this, the worst. So I think that sort of like put a little bit of anxiety. Like every time I step, I'm like, okay, I need to hold on to the railing and. So, even though I don't have the boot anymore, I still had a little bit of that anxiety, but I'm
I
getting
have
better.
I have unstableness because of my left hip too. I mean, it
Yeah.
can just it's not strong. It will never be strong. But a funny story about me when first of all, I think this should be a coaching thing. I think I should use this in my coaching to help motivate people. But
Okay.
my most angry moment when I was on crutches, because I was on crutches almost all of 2019, was shopping at Sam's Club. And I used one of those electric carts. And my husband's like with me, and he's like, I'll be right back. I'm going to go look for something. The minute my husband leaves me by myself, those dang carts die. The batteries on them die, right? So all of the groceries were in the little basket in the little cart. I was so angry. I got up, and of course, I'm way in the back. I had a crutch all the way through the store to get a cart, and I was cussing the whole way because I was so mad. And there were like 5 Sam's Club employees standing just talking to each other. And they're
Of
watching me
course.
trying to bump this cart with my stomach to get it back to where the groceries are. And here I am. You think one of them would have offered to help me. And there I am just spitting mad, cussing through the whole store, pushing a cart with my belly because I have no arms because I'm crutching at the same time. And so I feel like a good training exercise to motivate people would be make them go in one of those carts in the store and say, "Do you want to end up having to use one of these the rest of your life?" Because they always die. They always die. You never make it to where you want to go. Those carts are crap. And after that, I never used one of those electronic carts again. And I actually did blow out my armpits because I think the next time we went shopping, I crutched through 3 stores. I crutched through Costco, which we're talking a warehouse store, Sam's, and Myers all in one day. And then the next day I called in sick to work because my armpits hurt so bad from trying to crutch too much. But yeah, that electronic cart did me, and I'm like, nope, I'm never using one of these ever again. So I don't think I have to stay healthy because my motivation is to not have to ride an electric cart. I hated it. I was
Yeah.
frustrated.
I never. I don't think I ever. I think when I was in the wheelchair, I was really not in the stores too much, so
Mhm.
I didn't really do the electric cart too much. But I remember one time I got a little annoyed because one time I was in a Walmart and it was a bunch of like kids using the electric cart, and I'm like, meanwhile, there's like an old lady that's like with a walker that could have used it.
Right.
And, so I mean, that's the only experience I really had with the electric cart is just like really kids, like,
Right.
and their parents are just letting them use it and everything like that. They didn't care, They're like, let the lady fall. Who cares, like, it's so nice. Like, this is what you teach your children, okay?
Right.
But yeah, I just, I have to admit, every time I hear people's stories, I there's a part of me that gets a little speechless because I just, um, this is probably my form of emotional, because excuse me, because it's for two reasons. One, because you went through so much, and I know I went through a lot,
Mhm.
and being able to tell my story is just immense, and like, so when I go on other people's platforms, I always get nervous when I tell people's story. And I don't know if you got nervous or not, or if anybody else gets nervous when they do, because it's like, because you always feel like you have to tell the same way. You have to tell the same story. And I don't feel that way anymore, because like, oh, well, if I tell this, like, if this one part of the stories, if I tell that before the other part, it's not in the order that I said, then are they going to like be like, oh, well, he's not telling the truth because that's not what he said. He said he did this first and that first. And so I always say, like in the beginning, a lot of times it's like, well, I'm very bad with my with my time frame, because like it's true,
Well, it's
So,
it's funny you say that because when I got interviewed by Dave Mack, I misspoke. I said I stopped breathing 70 times per minute. And what I meant to say was per hour. And some
somebody
person,
called you out on it.
they're like, well, that's not even possible. She's a liar. And so I went back and looked up my AHI and I'm like, crap. But I misspoke. I said 70 times a minute. It's set AHI is 70 times per hour. But that's
Yeah.
still like severe. If you look up sleep apnea, that I was a
Oh,
severe
yeah,
case. But
yeah,
yeah, you're right. People are going to say she's a liar. None of this happened.
yeah.
It's not
I mean,
true.
I've had many comments that are problematic, but I only have had two comments that don't bother me. Okay, but I did find them to be. I mean, when I first saw them, they bothered me a little bit, but they don't bother me now. But I remember them. I think like there's those comments that you are always going to remember. It's like sort of like your first, your first, I guess your first enemy, basically. And I had one comment when I first went on to Dave Mack. Okay, I think it was Dave Max. Yeah, when I first was on Dave Mack, when I first was like when I was first telling my story. Okay, about 7 months ago, 8 months ago, and he or she said, I don't remember what gender it was. It could be an it for all I know, or it could be Plant Man for all I know. Okay, and they actually were like, like Tom has a really good story here, but he did this all to himself. And so why is he telling the story? Because he only has himself to blame. So I'm like, okay, I told my story. I don't know how far it's going to go because it was Dave Mack. It was my first interview. I had no idea that I was going to be doing other interviews and stuff like that. Then the second one, actually, it was two of them. The second one was Carrie Mann, and I had it wasn't actually on the interview. It was actually when I was actually that mic thing that he was doing for a while.
Yes.
It was on one of them, and Carrie took it out, but I caught it before he took it out. And I even emailed Carrie. I'm like, Carrie, this guy, if this is, if you agree with this guy, just let me know, and I won't come on their show anymore. But the first thing he said was, and it might have been two different people. 379. Oh my God, you weren't 380. What's the use in seeing this show? Over 1 pound. Okay. The next one. Okay, I have a pretty good memory when I want to. Okay. The next one was, Carrie, you have a great show and you're a great person. But if you're going to have this guy, Thomas, Target Prime Rib, on ever again, you need to put a disclaimer on warning people that he's going to be coming on.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so I'm I'm putting a warning out to anybody who ever wants to throw themselves out there on social media, YouTube, whatever. It doesn't matter how nice you are, how honest you are. There, especially the bigger channels, you know you've made it when you get trolls. And I had my first troll a couple weeks ago on my channel, just putting comments and not on a live stream, but on one of my recorded videos. And the best advice I can give you is just if it's on your channel, just respond to it and say thank you or I appreciate it. That way, and Mitch says this too. That way you don't see the comment ever again. It takes it out of your unresponded comments and don't engage them because that's what they want. There's bullies out there that just want attention. So they're going to knock. You could be Mother Teresa and a troll is going to come out and knock Mother Teresa because they're just a-holes. So, I mean, just do the best that you can. And the other thing that I worry about, and I'm not mentioning anybody specific, but there are a lot of people in this space, right? And we need them that have anxiety, depression, mental issues, and they're doing YouTube channels. And what really worries me for these people is when they get big enough and these trolls come out, I fear it's going to crush their progress. Like, and you have to be able to just, I hate to say it, but you got to just like, and it's important for people to tell their stories no matter what they are dealing with because someone else is going to relate to that. But I
Right.
really have a general concern for people who have they're in a fragile state and they're trying to heal their mental minds because when these jerks come out of the woodwork, it's not as easy for those people with anxiety and other things to be able to just shrug it off. I don't know if that makes sense or not. It
No, no,
concerns
you're
me.
absolutely right. You're absolutely right. I mean, I think how I deal with it is I look on I look at the stupidity of what is being said. Like because some of it is really, like look at the guy that was like 379. He didn't, he's not 380. Why, like why you're comparing 1 pound? Like how dumb is that? It's like
Stupid.
you
They're just
know.
trash
So
talking.
yeah, exactly. So and I just like when I heard about the disclaimer, I didn't worry about it, but at the same time I was like, okay, maybe I'm not worried, but I don't know how Carrie feels.
Right.
So I emailed him and I just said, Carrie, if you agree with this guy, I didn't think he did, but I'm like, if you agree with this guy, I will gladly not come on your show. I will gladly, abstain. I'll just be in the chats and that's it. And he's like, absolutely not. You're welcome anytime that I'm having people on my show. And you're a jewel, and I'm sure he'll say that to anybody, but I mean, I talk to Kerry all the time. He's a pretty nice guy,
Yeah.
I've talked to him a few times, but somebody actually said in the chats earlier, I can't really go that far back in time of who it was or how far back it was, but they were saying that you should tell your story with Carrie.
Me?
So
Carrie
yeah.
doesn't even know who I
Um,
am.
well, what I'd like to do is, since I do email him, I'm sure he'll be fine with it. I mean, the worst he'll say is no. But what I'd like to do is, I'm going to do the link of this live, and I'm going to ask him to look at the video and let him see your story, and
That's awesome.
and I'm gonna and I'll include your email and everything,
That's
in that.
great. And
So I
actually,
can't guarantee, I don't know,
maybe
but he's a
I
pretty
friend
good guy.
requested him on Facebook this week though, and he did respond. So,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
he probably has like 50,000 friends. I don't know. I'm nobody. I'm just a little rockin' keto Amy person.
Well, I actually met him in person, and he like as soon as I met him, he like had his open arms. Like he's like basically how I met him was he was holding a camera like this, right?
In
And
your face.
like you couldn't see his face, and also like he goes and like he's like, so it was kind of funny, but he definitely was very, very. Oh, okay, it was Jemmet that actually suggested it. So okay,
Oh, thank you.
so
Yes, I
yeah,
would go
I
on
mean,
Carrie's channel if I'm trying to get. I would want to go on Kiltz's channel too, but it's just so stinking early. But I can do it.
oh, in
I
the
can do it.
morning.
Yeah, I can do
It's
the
too,
morning one.
it's too bad. It's too bad you can't choose. Like because I know sometimes Dr. Nelson interviews at 3 o'clock. He does lives with people.
I work
And
though.
oh, so it's like
I'd have
either
to
at
take
work
off work.
or well, I'm sure there'd be a way. I mean, time will tell, right? So you know.
Yes, yes.
So, are you part of the KMT tribe or
I
no?
am, but my problem is there's like 3 different Mighty Networks groups on there that I'm a part of. I'm a part of Two Crazy Ketos, theirs, and now I'm on Dr. Barry's. And you switch between them. So when you switch between them, you don't get notifications for the other ones. At least I'm not. So I always forget about the 5:30 meeting. I think it's on Monday.
Yeah, I
But
mean, yeah, every Monday 5:30. I I don't really have the KMT on my phone. I just basically go on the website and just
uh
get it through there. Um, because I think the Mighty Network is also with Bella for Steak and Butter. So I get too confused with if you have more than one, it is very, very confusing.
yeah,
I
it
have
is. It's a
with that.
little annoying, honestly, but right now I'm going to be focusing on the PhD community or PhD coaching one because I have actually assignments I have to complete, so I have to pay attention to that one.
Yeah.
So, but I'll try to
I mean,
remember Kiltz's live at 5:30.
I could just imagine that that's probably really intense, the PhD. Because it's Dr. Barry and he's been doing it for quite a while and everything like that. And
It just
you know,
started, so we'll
I'm
see.
I'm I'm doing well. I'm just you're pretty smart, so I just started with well, we're halfway through with Kilton, Dr. Nelson training, and maybe I shouldn't say this, but I have like I get so nervous, like I'm like, okay, this is over my head, but I just going through the lesson plan and doing my best, is all anybody can
I
do. But I see other people, there's so many people out there that I see, and it's like, oh my God, you guys got it together already. It's like, wow, like I have to admit, like Lewis and CB, they make me feel like I'm like this like grade school kid, and they're like in college, just like
well, I feel like Kiltz's would be very sciency too. Like,
I yeah, it is. And that's probably the problem. It's not, and I think Kilt wants to put more science into it,
and
which is like, oh God,
I just want to teach people how to eat food right. How
right,
to stay motivated, eat the right things, help
right,
them stay on track. And I don't think you need to know a whole lot of science to do that. Now, if you have someone who's diabetic or whatnot, um, that's one thing because they have to be a little bit more sciencey, and you know this, but you've got it
hmm
figured out. So I may have to learn some things about that because one thing I've never been afflicted with is diabetes. So I have never
yeah,
pricked my finger. I've never tested my own blood. I've never peed on a stick. I've never taken exogenous ketones. Um, so the only time I get that stuff tested is when I go to the doctor and they test it for me. And I've only ever had my A1C checked once, and it was 5.1. And I was
okay,
mad
so
because I thought it should be lower after all this hard work, but it's not.
well, 5.1's good, so I
Yeah.
wouldn't really should think at that,
I was thinking, oh, it's gonna be 4.9. It's gonna be below 5, but it wasn't.
right,
So
right. I mean, as long as it's below like 5.5,
yeah.
you're okay, but yeah, it's just, but I mean, I'm getting through the class and everything like that. I just kind of always feel behind and everything like that. But I'm getting through it. You could ask Alia. I get very nervous though, and but you just have to do your own pace and your
Yep.
own thing, and but I didn't really take it to be like all sciencey. I'm not trying to be a doctor, or anything like that. I'm just trying to. Yeah, I think I did the coaching course because I wanted people, because you have so many people out there that if you have an opinion or if you have like, even if you tell your story, they're sort of like, well, what does he know? What does
Right.
she know? But if you have a certificate underneath your belt, then it's like, oh, well, he must have gone to school for it. Even if you didn't really go to school, there's like, oh, there was some kind of training. So maybe he's a little bit more knowledgeable than we're giving him credit for. So, especially like when I do my channel, it's like sort of like, you know, but I mean, there's so many people I know, Juliet, has pretty extensive training in coaching, and
Mhm.
so does No Carb Barb. She's been a coach for many years. So you got all these people, or how about Kathy? Kathy Dixon.
Mhm.
She's invaluable. And you know, and I agree. I agree with Ellen. The life experience is the most valuable. It's just people are stupid. They really are. I hate to
Right.
say that. That's the meanest thing to say, and I will justify why I said about that. What I mean by that is people do want verification on things, and they think that you know they sort of want the best. So if I get a coaching course, then and I give advice, it's like, oh, I'm getting advice from a coach.
Right.
But if I'm just a regular schmo that went through all this, then a lot of people don't listen to you. I mean, like, I a lot of times feel, and I don't feel it so much anymore, but because I'm only a few months in, that I don't really know what I'm talking about. Well, I know a lot. What people don't realize is I studied this. I was looking at carnivore for like 3, 4 years before I actually became carnivore. So I learned all this. I
Mhm.
learned from Dr. Barry. I learned from Bella. I learned from all these people.
Right.
So I know there's so much I know that no one realizes I know. But I just kind of like let them think, okay, you know, but it's just it's kind of a pride thing, I guess you could say. But it's just funny how. But I remember when I used to work in tuxedos. I don't know if you know what my employment background was, but
I remember you saying something about that.
I for 25 years I was the guy that would fit. Like, did your husband wear a tuxedo or a suit to your wedding?
Yes. We
Okay.
rented one,
Well,
so
I was when you went to that tuxedo shop. I was the guy that helped do all the grooms' tuxedos and everything, all the groomsmen, all the grooms, your dad, everybody. I was the guy that set the tuxedo. I was the guy that actually went into the back, produced all the tuxedos, would actually use do a quick hem and all that stuff and measure everybody. And that was my job basically for 25 years.
wow.
And, so I could probably get back on a blind stitch and hem pants again for rentals, and I was able to do jackets, and jackets I could actually do by hand too. Pants are a little harder to do a blind stitch on by hand.
So are you the person who's going to make my bacon woman costume?
Give me the machine and the stuff, maybe. But Lois just joined us right now. Actually, a lot of people joined us. But so that was my job for many years. So but basically, I just did what you did before. I forgot what I was about to say, and now I just remembered it. That's how bad I am. I forget while I'm talking about it. You stop talking for a while and try going back to it and just couldn't remember what to get back to.
Yeah.
I actually am in the middle of it and I forgot what it was that I was saying. Okay. So
It happens.
So I learned that people, it doesn't matter how much something is. If something's like high price or anything like that, they'll pay for it just because it's a certain price. Now, people like me, people like Rick that are a little bit more thrifty will look at like, okay, well, this is stupid. Why am I paying $200 for a tuxedo when I could pay 50 for the same tuxedo? You
Right.
know, but a lot of people think that if it's they don't look at it like, okay, well, it's expensive. They look at it like, well, this must be better quality. This must be an actual better tuxedo. This must be, like if I spent, so people would actually spend for a rental, they'd spend $200 pop, you know. I remember one time, and I used to have this like big skill. I remember one time I was doing a wedding party. It was a wedding party at 12, and the groom was free. All you had to pay for was a $40 like down payment, and and then they had one special one where the father of the bride or something like that they gave it to. And no, actually, this particular wedding they gave it to the ring bearer because 3 year, and they did every, and the whole bill came to about like $2,000. Okay, all for all the groomsmen and everything like that. They did the whole wedding. Everybody came to about $2,000, and I don't know what made me think to do this, but I'm like, yeah, the full wedding is $2,000. How did you want to pay for it? Right? They didn't like he didn't say, "Oh, can I just pay the down payment? Do I have to pay the whole thing?" Or each person can do their
Uh-huh.
own tuxedo. No, the groom was like, "Oh, here's the card. I'll give it to you," and just paid the whole $2,000 for that one wedding.
Wow.
So I was able to figure out. I just did that. I just did that trick for everybody, you know. And they could have just said, "Hey, and some people did. Some people were like, "Oh, I can't," And I told, or individual tickets, but they were like, yeah, I prefer to pay in full. I prefer to just pay it up. Like get rid of the payment, like out of my mind, out of my head. And the groom was just like, "Yeah, I'll pay for it all. I got it." So there was little tricks I learned. So and when I went to
That's
furniture sales,
awesome.
the same thing. Like you try, like people are like, "Oh, you could just put down." Like people would go like, "Oh, you could put a down payment down." I would just be like, "How do you want to pay for it?" Like if you want to do a down payment, we can do a down payment. If you want to pay in full, we can pay in full. You want to pay credit card? You want to pay cash? How do you want to pay for it? You know?
Everyone's telling you should do a side business for like hemming and seamstress work.
I mean, most of my stuff was rental quality, so I probably would rather. I want to like go through some more learning, some more training. And I worked with a lot of like there were major tailors that worked there, so my skill was good, but it was nothing compared to what they had. I mean, I had one lady that came from is it Austria? I always get confused. The one that's fighting with the Russians.
Oh,
Uh,
that's I don't know why I can't think of it.
it's
That's
not. It's
no,
not
it's
Austria, is it?
I can see their leader. I can see that guy's
Yeah.
face.
Well,
Uh,
we had a lady that actually her name was Zoriana,
not
and she was a
not Czech
tailor.
Republic. Ukraine, thank you.
Ukraine, Ukraine. Okay, I'm looking at the wrong letter. I'm thinking A, and it's supposed to be U. Well, she actually was like she was from the Ukraine and Ukrainian, and while I was working there, she actually got her citizenship to be in America. She actually went through all that, went through everything. So very nice lady, very sweet, and she took this one girl's dress, okay, for a wedding. This girl, okay, was a size 0. She wanted to wear her grandmother's wedding dress for her wedding. Okay, her grandmother was about a size 8. Big difference from an 8 to a 0. Beads, all this mark, everything in it. Okay, just like all this beadry, these pearls, everything inside the dress. Okay, to me it was a little bit much, but I don't wear those dresses anyway, so it really didn't matter to me. So I'm not Dennis Rodman, so I don't know if many people know that reference or not, but but she took that dress and with all the beading and everything like that, and she turned it from an 8 to a 0 size.
Wow.
With no imperfections whatsoever. Taking each bead and everything and marking it totally even and everything. It took
That's
her. It took
crazy.
about it took at least 2 weeks for her to work fully on that dress. I mean, obviously, my boss got a lot of money from it, you know, and everything. But that, like, I could never do that. I could never do a tailoring. Like most of my tailoring is like using the blind stitch to hem the pants. Um, like I said, I could do a jacket. I could do jacket sleeves either by blind stitch, a little bit of blind stitch, or I could do that by hand. And I was starting to learn how to taper vests and jackets. And the problem with jackets is not getting the lining caught, you know. So, but so I
That's
had
cool.
some skill, but to have it be where I would actually be doing a side business with it, I don't know if I think I would need more training on that. But most of my stuff was like just making sure that the suits were all perfect. Like just going through it. If somebody wanted a red bow tie, make sure they got the right red bow tie. Another skill I have, or I haven't used in a while, is I know how to tie bow ties. Like I can tie an actual bow tie. So
That's cool.
yeah. So I remember I was the only one that actually knew how. Not even my boss, the owner of the business, knew how to tie a bow tie. So there'd be a lot of customers that want to buy a bow tie. They want to look real. So they would ask me to tie for them. But here's the rub. I would help them try on their tuxedo about 2 days before the actual prom or before the wedding. So what are they going to do? Wear it for 2 days? Because once they took it out, right? So once they took it out, so I went to my boss. I'm like, it's too bad. I couldn't just tie the tie for them, and they couldn't just like unbutton it in the back or something like that, like Velcro it in the back, like have a Velcro tie that I could tie for them,
Right.
and then they could just like take it, undo it, and put it on. Everybody realize, and then at the end of the party, they can undo it and look like Frank Sinatra or something like that, like singing at the cabaret. And Jen is actually asking me if I have a sewing machine. No, I don't have a sewing machine, but so my boss actually ends up they actually do have that. So my boss actually bought about like 200 self bow ties that you could actually remove, and so people would actually buy the bow tie, tie for them, and that was like a separate thing. So you know, so but
That's cool.
that was many years ago. I wouldn't mind once I get better and everything like that, and once I can start driving, to actually call him up and say, "Hey, if you need me to help you with like fitting people for prom season, just like 1 or 2 days a week, during prom season, I wouldn't mind doing that, But so, um,
I
so I'm
think we
just
lost
trying
some
to.
people over to
Well, isn't
Russ.
that, isn't that always? Yeah, I guess we did. They probably didn't want to hear the story of me talking about. They're
I think
probably,
I think some
oh,
people dropped out because Russ goes live at 8:30. I think
oh, shoot, yeah. I mean, we can end it sooner.
it's up to you.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I forgot all about Russ. I haven't seen him in such a long time. Yeah,
He went to the Ohio meetup, so he's been gone for 2 weeks.
yeah. Well, I also didn't see him before that because I had to work.
Work.
Like I for a while there, I was going to work. Like I worked from 6 to 10 in the morning, but I have to get up by 4 in the morning. So if
Oh
I'm not in
my
bed by
god.
like 7, 8 o'clock, I don't really have. So I mean, luckily I don't work until Thursday, so I should be okay for tomorrow. And I don't work until 10 to 2, so I'm actually good there too.
Nice.
So So yeah, I mean, it was great having you on here.
Absolutely. I'll
So,
come on again sometime too to give an
of course,
update and we can just
of course.
talk about
I
different
mean,
stuff and
you're always welcome. I'm actually talking with. I don't know if he's going to be my next. I mean, if I get this computer thing situated, I love what we did. And I think this worked out really well.
it did.
But I'd still like to get the computer. um, but I might like. I'm actually talking with Dr. Nelson, so I might be able to get Dr. Nelson on here.
He's
So
so awesome. I love Dr.
yeah.
Nelson.
Yes, and and there's so many people. The biggest disappointment I got with everything that happened was canceling everybody out. And even though it's like not, so everybody on here that I was supposed to do an interview with know that I am going to email you one by one, and we'll set dates. But I'll try to figure out who was the first person that was next or whatever.
Right. Right.
But but I had a lot of fun today,
Me
and I
too.
think a lot of people did. And I apologize for anybody in the chats. I did not catch all the questions too. Amy was actually pretty on top of things.
Well, it's
She
I talk
actually
too much.
no. I mean, one of the benefits actually I had from today is you actually like as soon as I put the question out there, you responded. Yeah. So,
It's because I do this on my own channel too, so I
yeah, so you're like
I just do
familiar.
it.
So some people I put the question up and they'd still be talking. They would never realize I put the question up, or I'd be like, "Hello," like, "Hi, I'm over here." You actually were. But I love everybody. So I'm not putting
Me
anybody
too.
down. It's a humorous thing. But some people are saying to take care. Smoothie, I guess, left. So I'm going to end it, and then we'll end the live. And then if you could just stay on for a couple
Yeah,
seconds, that'd be
sure.
great. So just like I end every live, live, love, heal, and for God's sakes, people,
Eat your meat.
eat the meat